Okay, hello everybody. My name is Jos, as you heard, and as Kara said, I spend a lot of my time talking to our advertisers across basically all of EMEA about measurement and mainly multi-screen measurement. And one of the things that I hear most often when I talk to CMOs, head of onlines, e-commerce directors, and so on, when it is about mobile, what they say is, mobile? Yeah, we tried it, but it doesn't convert. It really doesn't convert. Look at those conversion rates, especially if you compare them to desktop. Mobile doesn't work. That's why we continue focusing on desktop, because we know that converts. It doesn't drive value for us. Mobile doesn't drive value. But the question, of course, is that really true? Does mobile really not drive value for some of these businesses? Because if this is really true, these businesses have serious issues. Why? Mainly, and this is Google search queries. What we know is that mobile queries are increasing really, really fast. And for most of your businesses, the so-called mobile moment, the moment at which mobile search queries will be higher than desktop search queries, is really close. For some of your businesses, it might have already happened. In some countries, it has happened a long time ago. Japan was mentioned before. So if you rely heavily on search, if mobile does not drive value for your business, you really, really have a problem. But it's not just search. This is a chart from ComScore that Luke published on Twitter. I stole it from him. I hope he doesn't mind. You might see it again tomorrow. But what this really nicely shows, this is about time spent per device category. And what we clearly see here is that over a period of 2010 to 2014, smartphones became by far the most used device category. So people are spending so much time in smartphones. And of course, part of that is doing social stuff. But there's so much going on smartphones. So if those smartphones, those mobile devices, if it doesn't drive value for your business, you have a serious, serious issue. Now, when talking to those clients, the one thing I do have to admit to is that mobile conversion rates are a lot lower on mobile than they are on desktop. So this is data from a nice quarterly e-commerce report that Monetate publishes. And here at the bottom, we see the mobile conversion rate. And the interesting thing here, to me, is that if you look at mobile and desktop, is that the gap almost seems to grow, the gap between mobile and desktop. Despite all of us spending so much time testing on mobile sites, creating responsive websites, really trying to improve mobile performance, the gap with desktop seems to grow. Right? And that's really strange. And the question, of course, is why? What is going on? And in my mind, there are two key reasons for this. And I'll spend most of my talk talking about those two reasons. Now, the first one here has to do with some basic math and changing consumer behavior. And I'll try to explain using some data from a fictional retailer here, yeah? So fake data. So on the left-hand side, we see visits per device category, and we're comparing one period in the current year with the same period in last year, and can here see how the percentage of traffic from the various devices change and how much traffic is now generated by mobile. And what we see here in yellow is that mobile is really growing fast, and in fact, it's the only device category growing for this retailer. Yeah, so that looks pretty positive for mobile, right? Now on the right-hand side here in this table, we have conversions per device category. So if we look here, first of all, we see that desktop, the number of conversions is decreasing. And we see that on mobile, there's a 61% increase in conversions on mobile. Looks pretty good to me. So if this advertiser would now assess mobile performance versus desktop performance, what do you guys think they would say? Is mobile doing well? Performing well? Yeah? Yeah? What about desktop? Volume is small on mobile, yeah. The volume's a very important point. What people tend to look at, and most of you will probably look at as well, is conversion rates, broken down per device category. And what we see here is that despite mobile traffic growing so fast, conversions growing as well, when we look at conversion rates over time, the mobile conversion rate has actually gone down. And we really see this for a lot of advertisers. At the same time, we see that the desktop conversion rate actually goes up, because sessions fall so fast on desktop and conversions fall as well, but a bit slower. And that's why desktop looks really good here. And if you're the one who is responsible for mobile development or mobile performance, then only looking at this metric is probably not a smart thing to do. What you want to do instead is try to get your company and your boss to a stage where they start understanding that they need to look at the conversion rate and performance across all devices, because all these devices work together to come to conversions. And this is what we call the multi-device conversion rate. This is where you want to see growth. And in this example, for instance, there's no growth there. There's no improvement there. So, as I said, all these devices now work together, and people move across devices to get to a conversion. And I'll talk about a couple of solutions to quantify that effect. But there's also some very easy things you can do in analytics, data you can look at yourself just to verify that this is really going on. And 3 of the metrics we tend to look at and that really prove to be valid for most of the clients we talk to are here. So first of all, in general, people who convert on desktop now look at less pages before they convert. So they look at less pages on a site before they convert. And we believe that is because they already did their research and discovery on another device than desktop, for instance, on mobile. A second metric that we see go down over time is time on site. So people are spending less time on site on desktop before they convert. Again, because they've already done their research on another device. And the third metric is the percentage of desktop conversions by new users. So these are people coming to desktop, to your site, never having been there before, and they make a purchase right away. We see this percentage increase as well. Again, this is because they did their research and discovery on other devices. Yeah? So now, what we'll do is look a bit at the second reason why these mobile conversion rates are so low. So the first reason obviously has to do with this cross-device behavior. And the second reason is that mobile, when used on the go, is local. It is actually super local. We have some nice research that we published together with Ipsos that tells us that 56% of the search queries when mobile is used on the go have local intent. So people are searching for something nearby, for the Starbucks nearby to get a crappy coffee in Simon's case, for instance, or whatever it is. There's local intent there. What we also know from research is that in 50% of the cases where somebody does a search with local intent, that person actually visits a related store offline. So if people search for local stuff on their mobile phone, they actually want to visit a store too. And of course, the conversion rates we looked at before for smartphones, for mobile, they do not generally take into account this effect. We assume that the intent of people coming to our site is that they want to purchase something online, but in many, many cases, that's not what they actually want to do. So that's the second reason. So what we'll do now is go into the 2 challenges, measuring cross-device and measuring online to offline effects to better understand what the impact of mobile is on our total number of conversions. I think I forgot something actually. I have a little demo as well as part of this. But I think I left my mouse, because I don't see it here. I think I left my optical mouse upstairs with the audio and video guys. Marissa, could you maybe pass that down via the audience? Thank you. If you could just pass it down, and I'll pick it up. Sorry about that. It's not so well prepared here. Oh, lots of people touching the mouse. Yeah, if you could just pass it down. Great, thank you. Oh, it takes a lot of time here. Really a lot of touch points here. Okay, you wanna give that to me? Okay, thank you very much. That was so. Thank you so much for that. I mean, you were brilliant in this. I think, seriously, you know, I give you 5 cardboards for this, and they're all for you. Yeah, don't give them to other people. They're all yours. Yeah. So now the question, of course, is, was that fair? You know, I gave all my cardboards, all the credit I had here to this lady here up front, even though all you guys passed it on. And that's exactly what's happening in the multi-screen world as well, right? We tend to give credit to the last device that was used when the conversion happened. And that is really an attribution problem. And that's what we'll look at solving now. And you'll see this mouse later on in my demo. OK, so basically, Google has 2 main solutions that look at solving the cross-device problem and making that a bit more touchable. And the first one of that is an AdWords solution. It's called estimated cross-device conversions. And I think most of you will have heard of this. Although I'm always surprised when I talk to advertisers by the amount of people who don't know it or haven't even really looked at the reports. Can I get a raise of hands for people who actually know this? Okay, so that's about half of the people. Okay, so for those of you who do not know this, a very, very brief overview. And I especially like the solution because if you use AdWords conversion tracking, you can see this data. You don't have to implement any code, make any changes or whatsoever. Yeah, that is the nice part of it. And the way this works is that when somebody is logged in to one of Google's services, for instance, YouTube or Gmail or Google Search on whatever, on a mobile phone and on a laptop, and then, for instance, start their customer journey by doing a search on mobile and clicking an ad, and then going to your website directly on laptop and then converting, Google can basically understand that customer journey. And based on the conversion tracking pixel, it then knows, okay, this user now converted on a laptop, but we know that an ad click took place on a mobile device belonging to the same user. And this data will show up in your AdWords report as part of estimated total conversions. And I'll show you what that looks like right now. So this is a screenshot of the AdWords interface. And here on the right-hand side, we have a column called estimated total conversions. It's there by default. Everybody can see it. And there's an additional column here, which I added manually, which is called estimated cross-device conversions. And this includes the type of conversions I just showed. And it says estimated cross-device conversions, because basically we do an extrapolation based on the data from signed-in users that we have. So based on that data, we extrapolate and we estimate how often this would have happened, looking at the total population. Now, in some of your accounts, and this works at a campaign and ad group level, in some of your ad groups, you might not find data, maybe not even in some of your campaigns. And that is because we're very conservative with showing data here. Only if we have a confidence interval of 95%, we will actually show you estimated cross-device conversions here and tell you that there's cross-device behavior for certain ad groups or campaigns. Now, the cool thing here is that you can not only see how people move from desktop to mobile, but of course also from mobile to desktop as soon as you segment this data by device. So if you segment by mobile, you can exactly see for mobile how often it happens that somebody clicks on a mobile ad and then ends up converting, for instance, on desktop or tablet. Now, how can you use this data, or why is it doesn't make a lot of sense to look at this? It allows you to recalculate some of your original metrics, and it allows you to look at, okay, what happens to my mobile CPA from AdWords, my cost per acquisition, if I take into account these cross-device effects? Maybe before you're of the opinion that, okay, the mobile CPAs are way too high, we're not investing in mobile. Taking into account the cross-device effect, you may well find that it makes a lot of sense to invest in mobile. You'll also be able to see things like what happens to my mobile return on investment. So how are some of our advertisers actually using this data? What are some of the best practices? So the really smart ones, and I have a few here on the left, what they do is that they use this data to identify ad groups and campaigns that drive a lot of cross-device conversions. And they basically then filter those ad groups and campaigns to find campaigns where they still have headroom. That means campaigns where, for instance, they have a relatively low average rank on AdWords, or where they have a relatively low impression share. And they try to increase their bids to show up even more and basically feed the funnel using this mobile traffic. And they know conversions might not happen on mobile, but they'll happen on desktop because they have this data in AdWords. Of course, it's a lot about UX as well, so they design an experience where it's really easy for people to move from one device to another device and then convert. And there's a lot of testing involved. I'll talk about testing a bit at the end as well, but they mainly test the effect not just on conversions happening on mobile, but on overall conversions. So I want to highlight one example here, and in this case study, I do not want to talk a lot about that Shutterfly, after investing more in mobile, got 115 times more conversions from mobile year on year. It seems like a lot to me. Maybe they had one before and now have 115. I'm not 100% sure, but huge growth there. But the interesting part here is that before they were saying, okay, mobile for us, it really doesn't convert, it doesn't work. Then we got them to look at their cross-device conversions in AdWords and got them to discover that there was a 60% increase in conversions attributed to mobile if they would take into account these cross-device effects. And that was a real eye-opener for them, and that got them extra budget to invest in mobile. And after doing that, they were able to increase even within the mobile device, so not even taking into account conversions happening on other devices, this huge increase in conversions. So nice example from Shutterfly. So the thing though with cross-device conversions in AdWords is that it's an AdWords solution. And if you use a lot of other marketing channels as well, or have a lot of organic traffic or direct traffic or social traffic or whatever it is, you will not have the cross-device numbers there in your AdWords account, of course. So an alternative solution that takes into account all traffic channels is the Universal Analytics User ID functionality that allows you to do cross-device tracking. So that sounds like the perfect solution. Why would you not use that then if you then immediately have traffic from all channels? Seems to make a lot of sense, right? But the big thing here is that you as an advertiser have to be able to identify a person coming to your site on desktop, mobile, and tablet. And in theory, or in practice, that means usually that you need to have a login functionality on your site that people actually use. Yeah? When you're able to use that and you have a certain percentage of logged in users, every time somebody logs into your desktop, to your site on desktop, you can, with every hit that gets sent to analytics, you include a so-called user ID. That's the UID here. If somebody then comes to your site on mobile and logs in again, you can tell analytics, this is again a user with the ID so-and-so. Yeah? And analytics can then, based on these user IDs, reconstruct that this is the same user visiting your site on mobile, on desktop, and on tablet. And that is pretty nice. There's a lot of advertisers actually trying this out and working with this. And one of my favorite case studies, I think, here is from a company called Cdiscount, and I have more details on that after this one. And what in general advertisers do who use this functionality is that they really manage to convince people to log in, so they clearly show the benefits of logging in. Also, they keep people logged in to the site wherever possible, so that if they return to the site, they recognize them again as well. In general, these are companies that can make changes to their tagging relatively quickly, because in contrary to the AdWords solution, the analytics solution requires you to make changes to your analytics tag. So in general, they use a tag management solution like Google Tag Manager to make these changes really quickly. And the really advanced guys, and Simon mentioned CRM before, the really advanced guys don't just use this user ID I talked about for the cross-device tracking, but they go even further and they add in data from the CRM based on this user ID. So if they know who a really valuable customer is, they add that information into analytics so they can do better segmentation, better targeting on the Google Display Network, and so on. But then you're doing really, really advanced stuff. So what Cdiscount did is that they implemented the user ID functionality. And the first thing they found is that in 1/3 of their conversions, of their online conversions, mobile played a role. So it was part of the consumer journey. And based on that, they were able to look at device paths, so how people move from one device to another and then convert. And they started building an alternative attribution model to the classic last device model. So in a last device model, and these are indexed values, they would contribute 100 conversions to mobile. By changing to a linear model, so a linear model basically means spreading the credit for a conversion to the different devices evenly, they now give 167 conversions to mobile. So that's a 60% increase in conversions attributed to mobile, and that they can then feed into their bidding decisions, their budget allocation decisions, and so on. So it gives them a much better view of the cross-device behavior. So I mentioned accommodating cross-device behavior, so making it easy to move from one device to another. Three simple examples here. The first one, checkout process, where we have a button at the bottom there that allows you to save your basket to your email. You can then, for instance, on desktop, immediately get to your basket again and purchase your products if it's easier for you to do it there. Plus, in terms of tracking, it's also a very easy thing to track using your web analytics tool to figure out, okay, how often is this happening? How are people moving between devices? And the second example is an example from Walmart and their checkout process. With every item in your basket, you have a save for later button, and you can save it basically to your account or to your wish list. And what I think is quite funny about this example is that here in my basket, I have almost $6, and they do a tiny upsell there by saying if I add $44 more, I get free shipping. So tiny upsell there. Now the last example is, of course, social sharing, and there's a lot of studies going on. I think WhatsApp is now at 800 million users, and there's tons of studies that show how often stuff gets shared on WhatsApp and the other networks and what the impact of that is. It's super important, especially for certain industries like travel and so forth, where a decision isn't made within one visit. It's usually not one person visiting, but maybe a family or a bigger group, and stuff is just shared and decisions are made between people. So that's where sharing really comes in, and that's really an extreme form of cross-device behavior. So action items, what should you actually do? What can you actually do? Try to figure out what cross-device behavior is for your business. If you use conversion tracking, use cross-device conversions in AdWords. It's really easy, there's nothing you have to do, you just need to add this column and figure out, okay, which campaigns are actually driving cross-device conversions. If you have logged in users on your site, use Universal Analytics and its user ID. It gives you really, really a lot of insights. then you want to try and move away from in-device metrics and look at and take a holistic view and optimize for total conversions. Look at things like blended CPA. And of course, as I said, you want to figure out which ad groups drive cross-device conversions, and you want to start testing increasing traffic from those ad groups. So for instance, opting more campaigns into mobile, raising bids, and then really figuring out, okay, is this driving incremental value? And I'll cover that later. Okay, so that was our first challenge, cross-device. So 2 options, AdWords and analytics. So why do we care so much about offline and the online to offline effect? And there's basically 2 reasons. And the first one is that so much of retail sales still happens offline. In the US, it's more than 93% still. But what we also know is that that store visits have never been more valuable than they are today. So research shows that from 2010 to 2013, footfall has decreased by 55%. So 55% less people walking into stores every day. Yeah, that's huge. But at the same time, the in-store conversion rate has doubled. So people walking in are much more likely to make a purchase. Why? Again, because they did their research online. When they come to the store, they're basically ready to make their purchase. So if you want to drive store visits and get more people in and more people to convert and really tap into that, there's 4 key steps. It's all about targeting, delivering the right ad or the right content, making sure that you measure impact, and then you start optimizing to get even more of those valuable store visits. And I don't want to go into too much detail here because I know not all of you actually have physical stores, so I'll keep this relatively brief and then get to a nice demo. So first, targeting. If you have stores, I hope that you're really targeting mobile users that are nearby your store, that you're trying to get them into your store. There's really easy ways to do that. And then if you're targeting them, I assume that when they are on mobile, you made sure that they immediately see your store address, that they see your opening hours, and that they can immediately find you or get directions to your store. And if you sell a whole lot of stuff, it might even make sense to do stuff like local inventory ads. This is a specific ad format that immediately allows people to see if certain items are actually available in your store, so that they don't come to your store and then the product is not available, they're disappointed and so on. Using this, they can immediately see if something is available. And again, that will obviously increase your in-store conversion rate. So that's targeting and showing the right content, making it really helpful, basically. But the question, of course, is, okay, so how do I then measure if somebody actually came to my store? I'm spending this money on advertising and so on, trying to drive people to my store. How am I supposed to measure the impact there? And for those of you who regularly read, for instance, our AdWords blog or follow websites like Search Engine Land, you might have heard about something we're testing mainly in the US at the moment, which is something called store visits. And basically the way this works is that when somebody clicks an AdWords ad and then visits your store, we are able to report a store visit. So this works based on people being logged in to their Google account as well, plus them sharing their GPS data, so that's something you need to opt into, plus us knowing about store locations. Based on that, we can pretty much figure out if somebody actually visited a store. Now, I can't share much more in terms of detail here. What I can recommend is just to read the post on the AdWords blog. It has some details. It has some first results from advertisers as well. But this is how we're looking into solving some of that measurement for offline. So this, again, is an AdWords-only solution. Yeah? Store visits. Then, of course, we again, have an analytics solution as well, and actually one that I really like. And the way it works is that if you start advertising on mobile and people decide to go to your offline store, you're able to send information about that offline store visit to analytics as well. And I'll show you a little demo on how that actually works, just to show you that it's not just theory, but that you can actually do this as well. Can we maybe switch to the laptop here on stage? Okay, cool. So this is my analytics account here. I'll put this away for a second. And the great thing about Universal Analytics, the new version of analytics, is, as most of you probably know, that it's not just limited to web tracking anymore. Basically, you can track any device that is somehow connected to the internet. Yeah? So as an example here, here we're in the events section of the real-time report. So in real time, you can see what's going on your website, basically, or even on other systems. If I unlock my phone here, which I just did, after a few seconds, this would be bad. This would be really, really bad. Oh, there it is. Oh, jeez. My God. Okay. So I even two now. Wow. Because I tried again, and soon you'll see some more information pop up. Yeah, there it is. So all I did now is unlock my phone. Yeah, that's all I did. I didn't open an app. I didn't do anything. I just unlocked my phone. And now here in real time, I can see that an event took place, and I labeled that event. I called it Android, unlock screen, and then it even has a label, so it's Android Jos, so I know it's my phone, and I unlocked it. Yeah, so it's not just phones that we can track, but it's also stuff like point of sales, transactions happening offline. And I think Simon, before, he mentioned that people on average open their phone 150 times, you said, right? And it's quite fun, because I can actually track that. I look at how often do I open my phone. And I didn't prepare on showing this, so maybe this is going to be embarrassing here. Here we have events. Then we have overview here, I think. Let's see if this loads. And then there's Android. Let me load this. So I set this up last week. But on a pretty bad day, it's 169 times that I unlock my screen. But I tend to slow down on the weekend. That's good. So just 60 times. And today I was quite active. I was checking out Twitter and stuff. So I'm already at 92. I'm going for 200 today. So really, really a lot of events. So yeah, you can track anything basically. But what I want to get to is that you can also track online to offline and track a point of sale. But to do that, of course, I need to show you guys a point of sale. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with point of sale systems, I created one here. And basically, a point of sale system looks like this from the inside. Yeah, it looks like this. And when somebody comes to the point of sale and to the cash register and wants to make a purchase, this is what it looks like for the person behind the cash register. So in this example, this assumes that I went to a website first. And I always go there, I always buy there, I'm always logged in with them, Amazon style. I browsed around for a mouse, because I really needed that for my demo. I found it there, but delivery was like 2 days, so I decided to go to the store to buy it there, right? So I found it, then I get to the cash register. And at the cash register, I'm asked for my loyalty card. And I have my loyalty card here, actually. And what I also have here is a card reader machine. Yeah. So the person says, "Okay, can you please swipe your loyalty card? You know, so you get your points, your bonus points, and stuff like that." So I say, "Okay, that makes sense. Swipe my card." So This is the value that's actually on that card, so it has my name and a couple of numbers, my card number and stuff like that. Yeah. And then, of course, they need to scan the products that I'm buying, right? So yeah, for that, here we go. We have a scanner here, bleep bleep. And I wanted to buy this mouse here. So luckily, this mouse has an actual barcode on it. So if I do like this, we hear it bleep, and the product being sold has a specific number. And then we see a bunch of stuff going on the screen here. And what is happening here is that several hits are being sent to analytics. And I won't go into detail about what these mean exactly. I just want to point out one thing, is that here there's a parameter called UID, and that's user ID. Yeah? So I'm sending a user ID to analytics together with information about this transaction. Yeah? And this user ID was also there when I visited the website and I was logged in to the website. I had a user ID as well. And it's the same user ID as this one. So based on that user ID, we can connect the online world with the offline world. And if we now look in analytics here, we see a new event has happened. It was an event in the category offline. It was a sale. And it was an in-store sale. So that's quite nice. We have the information there right away. Now, the cool thing is that we cannot just see this event in real time. We can also look at specific reports that then show, okay, the online to offline behavior. So I created a custom report in analytics that is called the offline conversions report. And here we get to see that I did this myself, obviously. So I came from Google CPC, and then there were 3 sessions, but in store there were 6 transactions, and these transactions have a total value of 60 euros, because this mouse costs 10 euros. So it appoints or attributes the conversion to the last known traffic source for this user ID. Yeah? But quite technical, but a very nice solution. And often, can we switch back to the presentation? Often when I did this, I don't know when I started with these type of demos, people said, that's all very cool, but who's gonna do that? Who's gonna do a point of sale integration with analytics to connect online to offline? That's not gonna happen, And then I'd say, okay, sorry. I don't have a case study, I don't know who's actually doing this. I'm doing it, on stage. It's nice, but I don't know. Luckily now, we're starting to get more and more case studies. So one of the clients who actually implemented this and who created a case study with us is Galeries Lafayette, again, French. They have a loyalty card system. They have login functionality on their website, and they implemented this. And they have some pretty neat results here. So what they were able to find out using this is that 20% of their store transactions were actually preceded by an online visit. 20% of those visits were from mobile, and 50% of those online visits happened on the same day of the transaction. And that's, of course, very much in line with what we saw before. We also saw that 50% then visits the store within the same day. So based on all this information and on better understanding how online drives value offline and how mobile contributes to that, they basically changed their perception of return on ad spend by a factor of 2.4. So that's a huge thing here for Galeries Lafayette. So people are actually using this, and I'm super happy about this. I have to say that I'm not the only one anymore. Of course, also here, in terms of action, so how can you actually make this work, right? It all starts with facilitating this type of behavior, facilitating online to online behavior. And that can be as easy as on the left-hand side, showing based on GPS location that in the store that is nearby, that there's stock, that the product is actually available, as easy as that. In the second example, which is actually IKEA and their, I believe it's the Swedish side here. It could be their Norwegian. I think it's the Swedish. Do we have any Swedish here? It doesn't matter. What it says, it tells you, and you can refresh that as often as you want. It tells you how many of a specific Billy bookcase are available in a store near you. It tells you exactly where in the warehouse you can pick it up, so you don't have to go through the whole IKEA and eat these kotbula meatballs you always get. You can go to the warehouse right away and pick it up. And it even, and that I like a lot as well, it has the instruction manual on how to put it together there as well. So that's real targeted to offline behavior. And then the last one, of course, is making sure you have a good store locator. And this may be not the most visually appealing store locator, but it has all the information you need. This is Crate and Barrel. It has, based on GPS or your own search, it can tell you which store is nearby. It has a telephone number. You can easily get to maps and directions. It tells you when it's open. Plus, if there's specific events happening in the store that they want people to know about, you can find that out as well. So once you've done that, you've facilitated this type of behavior. Of course, you want to review your mobile advertising and really optimize it to drive more people into your store, right? To really capture all of that value that is there. The challenge then is measuring this. So as I said, we're working on stuff there, hoping that that will launch in new countries relatively soon. On the AdWords side, there's a number of other ways to kind of figure out how online results in offline sales using vouchers and so forth. Analytics can play an important role there as well. But in the end, of course, you want to really optimize and test impact. Because I talked a lot about how mobile drives value cross-device, how mobile drives value in itself and even offline. But the question in the end, of course, is, okay, is this really incremental value? Is my investment in mobile really worth it? Or would somebody have bought anyway, even if I wouldn't have invested in mobile? So it's all about incrementality. And that's the last topic that I want to touch on, proving impact. And really advanced advertisers do this type of stuff. And at Google, we're also very focused on solutions now that facilitate testing, looking at incremental impact, and so on. And just two of those solutions I want to highlight. And the first one here is a software package written in R, and it's called Causal Impact. It's available on GitHub. It might sound complex at first, but actually it's relatively easy if you have a look at this. So what this allows you to do is, for instance, input historical sales data for a test store and a control store. So in green, the test store, and in gray, the control store. Yeah? So this is what we call the learning period of the tool. Yeah? Then we say, okay, we're now going to start a campaign. And we're going to run a specific campaign, maybe a highly targeted mobile campaign, just for one of these two stores. Yeah? So when we run this, we can put, again, sales data of the two stores into the tool. And what we see here at first sight is that, oh, okay, the actual sales in our test store where we did this highly targeted mobile campaign, they really went up. But what we, of course, want to know is, okay, would that also have happened if we would not have run that campaign? How much of that is actual incremental and driven by our highly targeted mobile campaign? And that's where this tool is super handy, because based on sales, actual sales in the control region and the historical data, we can have predicted sales for our test region. And the difference between our predicted sales in the test region and the actual sales in the test region, or test for the test store, that's our incremental value here. And again, this works with confidence intervals and so forth. This is something you can use yourself, pump a couple of data sets in, just to see how it works and start thinking about how you might actually be able to use this. Super nice tool called Causal Impact, and this is what we call a time series experiment. Then a second type of experimentation, and we're working hard on further solutions here, is all about Geo Experimentation. Geo Experimentation is particularly nice because most of the ad channels available allow some type of geo-based targeting, so you can test basically all types of channels. And what we do here is assign test and control regions, and in the end it's often cities. We then run a test for the test regions and measure actual impact on the key business metrics we're interested in. And by that, we're able to see, okay, are we really driving incremental value? All right, so I covered loads of stuff. It feels, at least for me, it feels like that. But there's a couple of things that I would like you guys to remember here. And those are mainly to stop looking at mobile in a silo, or any device category for that matter. To optimize for total conversions and to find a way to measure how mobile contributes to conversions on other devices, offline, and by that, try to understand that there's a reason why currently mobile conversion rates are not on par with desktop conversion rates. And the desktop conversion rates are basically inflated right now. Your desktop conversion rate is going up because research and discovery is happening on other devices. And people come to your site on desktop when they're ready to convert. And finally, try and quantify the impact of your investment into, for instance, mobile. Yeah, try to figure out, are we really driving incremental value? And the key thing is basically not to become like this, the boiling frog, where if the boiling frog, if the heat is turned up really slowly, gradually, the frog stays in the water all the time until it basically burns. But if the frog is in the water and you turn the heat up right away, it jumps out. It makes a jump. It makes a jump, for instance, towards mobile. So it's really important that you don't look at mobile and think, geez, okay, we could invest more, but the conversion rates, my CEO says conversion rates. Don't be the boiling frog, basically. So I look forward to your questions on the panel. Submit them using the app, and thank you all for bearing with me with a lot of data, a lot of solutions, a lot of products, and thanks for your attention.